might not want to talk about because it's kind of a negative thing. But if you've been hurt by it, uh, you're probably glad somebody's talking about it, so people won't do this to you anymore. And it's a pretty important word, but it's going to feel like a little bit of a correction for all of us if we ever taste this morsel, as the book of Proverbs says. It goes down in this morsel, goes down into our innermost parts, because we experience it as a delicacy sometimes, but it's destructive. And that morsel is gossip. Gossip. What is gossip? A lot of confusion about gossip. We posted something about gossip not too long ago and had, I think, a gazillion comments, people resonating, but also some questions about it. So let's start with kind of a way to think about this. There's a million different ways to think about it. But, basically, what is gossip? Well, gossip's when we're talking about somebody who's not there, who's not part of the conversation, and we're talking about them, and it can be true or not true. Can be rumors, but it's just kind of like these little bitty morsels, as Proverbs says, these little, it feels good to talk about. Oh, did you hear about? Oh, have you heard have you heard about did you? And we talk about people, okay? They're not there. And we talk about people with people that aren't even a part of the problem. We talk about people, sometimes feel better about ourselves. I mean, this is kind of a human thing. Feeling crummy about yourself and you find out somebody else, screwed up too. Well, kind of makes you feel better, right? You're not the only one. Well, that's a good thing to know you're not the only one. Sort of a better way to do that might be get into a recovery group or a support group where 6 or 8 other people are talking about their failures along with you, but you're coming together to do it, not talking about somebody that's not in the circle. That's a different deal. But we do feel better to know we're not the only one that's not perfect or, encounter stuff. So, sorry, I'm hitting the cord here that's moving my screen. That's kind of the issue. So let me give you a few ways to think about this. One is talking about somebody when we're not being helpful. Okay, talking about somebody we're not part of the solution. We're not being helpful anyway. It's talking about somebody when we're actually trying to get the person we're talking to sometimes on our side in relation to the other person. That's called divisiveness or triangulation. Or somebody's trying to get us on their side in this conflict. Person A has a problem with person B. Instead of talking to person B about it, they talk to person C, who sometimes doesn't have anything to do with it. And now not only have you hurt person B, and not only have you not solved the problem with person B, but now you got person C having a problem with person B, which they didn't have a problem with before the gossip. That's called divisiveness. Do you know it's in the list of one of the things that God hates? He hates it. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to read you this the way he puts it. I'm going to find this verse. Here we go. Well, I couldn't quite find it as quickly as I thought it was, but the way he puts it in Proverbs, he says this, that hates it, the one that stirs up strife among brothers or sisters, kind of stirring up stuff between people. That's divisive. In the New Testament, it says, reject a divisive person after a second warning. I never understood that. I always thought the Bible called us to be long-suffering and forgiving and accepting and put up with people and be patient. Well, it does with somebody that's struggling, right? And somebody that's going through things and all of that. We're trying to work with them, this and the other. But it says something different about a divisive person. It says reject them after a second warning. Interesting. We are to warn them, and then we're to warn them again. But after that, I'm not supposed to have anything to do with them. Why? Because divisiveness is not a struggle that somebody's having. Divisiveness is a strategy that someone is implementing to break apart relationships or derail an agenda or whatever it is. And it is one of the most powerful dynamics in all of human psychology of how you move groups around. You see this in the political world all the time. What does a candidate do? Stands up and tells you how this group over here is hurting you, and I'm going to come rescue you from that. Both sides do it. It doesn't help to divide people. As Lincoln said, a house divided cannot stand. Well, where did he get that? He got it from Jesus. House divided cannot stand. And one of the things that divides houses more than anything is gossip, divisive gossip. You could smear somebody's reputation. Do you know the Bible's about protecting, in many instances, in many ways, grace, overlooking an offense? Remember when Joseph found out Mary was pregnant and he knew he hadn't done it, but he was engaged, betrothed to her? You know what it says? It says, Joseph, being a righteous man, did not want to disgrace her. So he tried to kind of, put her away quietly. Boy, that's different than gossip, going around telling everybody. It's taking the high road. So that's kind of the one of the ways to look at it. It's just talking about people in a way that's not helpful. Now one of the things that we struggle with and get questions about here. I found the verse I wanted to tell you about here. It says, where are we? Here we go. There are 6 things that the Lord hates and 7 that are detestable to him. Now, I have many, many times, because I can identify with times I've done a bunch of these, just prayed to God, please show me if I'm ever doing any of this stuff. The last thing we want to do is do something that God hates. Just think about, when you were a kid, last thing you want to do is do something that you knew your old man hated. If I did something my father hated, I did not want to do that, I guarantee you. Well, you don't want to do stuff God hates, right? Hopefully he would deal with us a little differently than some parents who might have been a little angry. Of course, he does get mad. Anyway, here we go. 6th thing he hates. Number 1, haughty eyes. Oh, how about that? People look down on other people. People think they're better than other people. Who's giving you the snooty look lately? Well, you know what? God didn't like it when they did that. So there you go. That helps you, right? Second one, a lying tongue. Well, everybody understands that. Have you ever been lied to? That doesn't feel good. Hands that shed innocent blood, picking on people, that just victimizing innocent people. A heart that devises wicked schemes. How do you have a relationship with somebody? They're always scheming wicked strategies. Feet that are quick to rush into evil. You ever have friends, they're just quick to get in trouble. Stay away from them. A false witness who pours out lies, in other words, people that lie about somebody, oh, it's terrible. And here we go. The last one is the one I want to share. And a person who stirs up conflict in the community. That's the way the NIV puts it. A person who stirs up conflict in the community. So if you've got a team or if you got a family or an extended family, it's like a friend of mine's mother used to say, she used to joke, said, if you don't have anything nice to say about somebody, then come sit next to me. And she would laugh. I want to hear it. You know, she wouldn't hear those tasty little morsels. But it's destructive. So one of the questions we get about this, when you're defining gossip as a bad thing, it's basically, we're not doing anything to really help the problem. There's confusion sometimes because there are appropriate times to talk about other people. Okay. One of them is sometimes you've got to go process. Somebody's hurt you and you got to go, bleed off the emotions. One of the things I recommend in some of my materials about having a difficult conversation is sometimes before you go into the conversation, it's good to go process it with somebody else and get the emotion out of it, squeeze the sponge and get all that stuff out of the way so you don't take it into the conversation. So if you're talking to somebody about somebody in the service of helping the problem or healing you, I mean, that's kind of what a lot of therapy is. What if therapy were gossip, then it wouldn't be very helpful. Therapy is healing because it's processing. So yeah, it's okay to talk about ways that somebody has hurt you if you're doing it with somebody that's not going to make it worse by the gossip, but they're also doing it to be there for you and to heal you. And second reason is to help give you insight and guidance and become part of the solution. Those are very helpful reasons why we might talk about somebody. Okay. How about this one? Spreading news. How's so-and-so doing? You know what? I talked to her the other day. She's really going through a hard time. And then somebody else says, oh, I'm so glad you told me. I need to reach out to her. See, there are ways of talking about people, and we have to get to the great, great, great equalizer. And that's motive. What is our motive? I love the way one of my favorite verses in Thessalonians puts it, that Paul prays that things might happen for people, might come true for people, things that are motivated by faith in the service of love. So what's the motive when we're talking about somebody? Is it to share information that would be good for people to have, or they can rejoice with those who rejoice or weep with those who weep? But to share stuff so somebody can judge somebody else, to judge with those who judge, well, that's spreading infection. Or to just feel better than, or to be divisive. Those aren't good reasons. So I say this to remind us that when we are talking about someone, or here's a good one too, when you are invited to be on the receiving end of gossip, it might, here's something I've said many times, just ask the person, oh, hold on a second, have you talked to him about this? Have you talked to her about this? And see, find out if they've tried to resolve it. Because if, yeah, I talked to him about it and here's what happened. Okay, well, let me see how I can help. Maybe we could go talk to him together. Let's do that. Because I don't really feel comfortable talking about them if there's not some way that we can go resolve it or help resolve this, otherwise it's going to be divisive. So, I realize there's gray area in here, and we always talk about people. That's normal. Normal. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to go have dinner in a little bit, but the family, I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of the kids' friends or our friends or, what's so and so doing? But what's the motive and what's the outcome? What's the fruit of your lips? That's the big question. Okay, so it can be helpful to talk about other people. It can heal you. It can help do something in the service of helping them, but it can also be destructive. And that's gossip.